February 2nd, Groundhog's Day, Identifying Security Threats Working Group meeting. If there's anyone that hasn't been here before and would like to introduce themselves, feel free. Otherwise, if you want to drop your name in the attendance, the link is in the chat. Okay, so today we really have, I think, probably two main topics. And the first one I put this one first because I want to be able to have a good amount of time to talk about this, which is, sorry, I keep getting pinged because more people are trying to add, so I'm not getting distracted. I mean, I am, but metrics.opensssf.org, potential for scorecard.dev, LFX security, the concept of we'll just call it a metric dashboard of security facts and information about open source projects that is publicly viewable and makes sense to the reader and is searchable and all that stuff. As you probably know, metrics.openssf.org has been around for probably 6 months. It's definitely kind of a barely beyond proof of concept. And at the same time, other data sources have come in. So deps.dev has scorecard information. Scorecard itself has expanded out to 1 million+ projects. And I think that there's rightfully the question of like, well, what's the future? Like, are we going to invest in making metrics.opensssf.org like production-y and much better, or do we deprecate it in favor of something else? That's what this conversation is for. So we have Abhishek and Nazim from Google/Scorecard, and I'm hoping that we have Shubhra from representing LFX security, which I do not see him yet. Shubhra, are you on the call? I see a phone number. That's probably not you, but okay. Anyway, we can chat regardless. But I wanted to give Abhishek, Azim, if you guys wanted to give your thoughts and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So one of the things I felt with we would definitely need to have some searchable dashboards for all the scorecards data. Like right now, it's 1 million repositories, so it's a pretty useful database for anybody to explore. And we want to create more like a maintained environment to make this searchable. And there is an organization called Projects by IAF who will do some design work on scorecards.dev already. And we were just proposing if they could create some search wrappers around it. So that way, then we could easily maintain it. So the idea would be probably have scorecards.dev, and I think LFX security would be the second one. If we have two of these environments completely maintained, then we could probably just turn off maybe metrics.openssf.org. The reason for also this conversation was some of the Apache folks were getting confused with some of the metrics on openssf.org, like the metrics.openssf.org. And either we fix some of those bugs or just disable the dashboard just to avoid confusion.
Yeah.
Those folks can access the data from BigQuery directly, so it's pretty simple. But I'm curious for everyone's thoughts.
I'll just jump. I'm not sure I really have a dog in the fight per se, but I think the key is that whichever sites exist, that there be a distinctive reason for it. As opposed, we don't need 12 sites that do the same thing. If nothing else, that's a pain to maintain. I know that there's been a lot of work to make LFX security very capable. Up to this point, I don't know, and I'd love to hear from Shubhra. LF is willing to add specific projects that even if they aren't LF, because like they're critical. So I know that's important, for example, for Alpha Omega. On the other hand, I don't know if there's a commitment to add all open source projects to LFX. And if that's not the case, and I don't think there is because there's a huge cloud bill for that, um, either LFX security becomes the everything merges in there and they support all open source projects, or we need something else that collects all the important metrics data from all open source projects, because I think there's still a need for, I am developing something, I want to know data about this project that I'm thinking about using, but it needs to take, I don't care if it's on GitHub or not. It doesn't matter if it's on GitHub, GitLab, or anything. It doesn't matter if it's LF project or not. It doesn't matter, but I just want all the data so I can hopefully make some good decisions.
We also have Azim, the scorecards lead, and I would be curious for his thoughts as well.
Right. I think right now I'm thinking much more than scorecards, because scorecards is one particular set of metrics. I think I would want much more than just the scorecard data this is not to denigrate scorecard, by the way. It's just I would want to know multiple metrics about a project before selecting it.
Yeah,
Totally agree with that point.
so my opinion on this is I definitely think having the whole metrics dashboard is super useful, because along with scorecards we also show the criticality score, and we also show the CII best practices batch thing. But I think to actually continue, we really need a commitment from someone to like maintain this full time, because I don't think this is just about having the UI. I think it's also about having that integration platform, like David and Abhishek mentioned, which basically collects all these different metrics across the ecosystem. So Scorecard has this platform today, but we need to kind of expand this platform to collect metrics for criticality score and maybe other scores that OpenSSF tools have. So I think it's really about the time commitment and the resource commitment we have. I personally think it'll be very useful to have this, but it's harmful if you are not maintaining it full time, and if you don't have the commitment, maybe it's worth
I'm
considering.
not sure we need full-time commitment, but I do need, it needs to be somebody's job. I think for a lot of this, once you trigger a lot of this stuff, most of this stuff looks like once you get things going, you just keep running. I mean, you don't need someone full-time to rerun the scorecard.
No, but you do need infrastructure to be patched, and
sure,
DNS is going to go down. Like, there's just stuff that's
I'm
involved. It needs to be like an operational team.
Right. Well, I'm pushing against one person being full time. I'm not pushing against them meeting.
No.
I think it's somebody's job, or some multiple people's job to do that.
So Azim, do you see the future of scorecard pulling in? Like, do you see scorecard being the focal point and expanding to include best practice? I mean, I know you have a marker for best practice, but like the content there, or criticality, or just other data sources, or do you think that scorecard should be a data provider into some different aggregation platform?
So I mean, I think that's a larger discussion. So to be to be safe, I would probably say that it's better that each of these projects or each of these metrics are separate. I mean, we could consider including them in scorecard at some point, but I wouldn't want to make a decision here based on that point.
Okay.
Like brainstorming on this a little bit, right? Like at a high level, what are the things that are outside scorecards that could go into that aggregation thing? Because I think the point of scorecards was to actually get all the different vendors and things in the central risk assessment things, right? So I'm just curious which could be those points. Like if you think of OSV, if you think of CI best practices, if you think of everything right now goes into scorecards.
No. No, not even close. For example, if here's the thing: if I'm going to select an open source project to potentially depend on, I would want to know, for example, is this a project that's only maintained by a single person, or is this something where there are multiple people who are developing it? Um, it's that doesn't mean that it's wrong to have a single person. There are lots of projects where the functionality is small and there really isn't. It's there really isn't a useful alternative. But that would help me inform my thinking. I'm not sure that would be a good scorecard metric because I'm a single developer. What am I supposed to do? I can't create new people, or at
There
least
are like there are checks for that. Like there is the contributor, or there is, I think, organization check, or I mean, we can add even more, but there are existing checks on those as well.
okay. All right. That may not have been a good example, but like criticality score and
Well,
and some of these other
knows
things.
about crypto, so something from deep in the best practices. Are the
Yeah.
have the developers taken your security training?
Yeah.
Is there a line around things that scorecard? I mean, obviously, there are things that scorecard has today. There's things that it could have in the future, and there are things that are just so far like no, it's the wrong thing. In which case, if we need to draw the line around that inclusively, then it has to be an aggregation on top of scorecard. Otherwise, we just grow scorecard to include all the things that we want. Luigi, I see your hand up.
Yes, this was my question. At the moment, the scorecard is a good scanner that can check some value for the project, but not all. We can find a lot of example of numbers that are not in the scorecard. But in the future, this check can be added. So the question, in my opinion, is we want that the scorecard is the main and unique project to have all the information for the open source project, because probably this is the question. So we want to replace the CII badge and other related tool that can help a developer or a user to evaluate the project with the scorecard. Because of course, at the moment it's not complete. It's not.
I don't think you're ever going to replace the badge, because most of the things that needs are not. It's not possible to check them in an automated way. So a tool that can only check using automated analyses won't work for a lot of the critical things. Like hey, can you prove that everybody has been trained? I don't know where you get that data. There's no data source for that.
So do you think this aggregation could be its own project? An example of it is also this thing called deps.dev, if you have heard about open source insights. That's actually aggregating things from CVEs as well, scorecards and other stuff. So, and that's kind of a fully maintained effort. It's not in OpenSSF right now, but we can bring it in. It's fully maintained. But I'm very open to the idea of LFX security, opening it too, because LFX security has a ton of metrics, as I know. But want to brainstorm with all of you, like whichever makes sense.
Yeah, how's this? I think there is a role for. I'm thinking about using this software. Please tell me more information about it so that I can make an informed decision. I don't know that anything we've got right now really meets there. For example, deps.dev only deals with language level packages. I can't find out anything about system packages on there I believe. I may be wrong about that. But I think it only handles cargo and Go and Maven, not system level packages.
But is that a fundamental design, or is that just we have n data sources and we need n+1 kind of thing?
I don't think it's necessarily designed, although Avicek probably know better than I would.
Packages can be added. I think the way it's different is it doesn't look at source repos. So in a way, let's say if you want to say how is this OpenSSL repo doing the security posture, that would be hard, but it looks at the package level. So that's a design difference.
Yeah, I think that's super important actually. For a lot of this stuff, you really need to look at the source, not the package level.
Yes, that's the part which is like You won't
Yeah,
see C++
okay.
stuff. So
Right. But how's this? To rewind it back, I think that there is a role for I am thinking about using this software, source level or a package level thing. I would like information to help me make a good decision. Now, how we do that, I think there's lots of ways. LFX is one, metrics.OpenSSF. I mean, we do need to just figure out who has which roles.
Yeah, this is Amir from OSTIF here. I thought the metrics dashboard was definitely, I think we were on the right track with that effort. I mean, it was a good way to get kind of a high level snapshot that factored in, a lot of qualitative data, from the criticality score and security scorecards, as well as some qualitative data such as, security information and what have you. So I think everyone has made really good points here. I think it's just really determining, what is the roles of these tools and where should the focus go on developing those tools.
I wonder if we should also have, I mean, I always kind of thought of metrics or dashboard as this place for place to kind of, show off all the OpenSSF work, all the OpenSSF tools that we are developing. Because as of now, that's another thing we would probably want to show to the public. These are all the different tools and these are all the different things that the working group is actually developing. So that's
Mhm.
probably.
I think we should absolutely do that. I don't think it's metrics.OpenSSF.org. It's just like OpenSSF / like, what are we up to? Or, our tools or something like that. Yeah, I think my feeling on this is like, I don't care like where, and I don't even care that it has to only be one. It shouldn't be 42, but, to have scorecard.dev and LFX security, have scorecard.dev, evolve in kind of a natural way, and have LFX security include that. And then, I mean, either way, I think my one ask would be that there's an API layer so that tools like, because I really want like npm install left pad, and it says, bam, scorecard data, or like OpenSSF data inclusive of scorecard data, things like that, and be able to, have a richer ecosystem of tools that grab this data. I think having
Right.
an aggregation layer makes sense there, but
Okay, so actually, I think maybe this is the right track, actually, Mike. Maybe what we need to do is say, what are we trying to accomplish with either metrics, OpenSSF.org, or something else? And then the question is it better to, is it better to keep building on metrics, OpenSSF.org, or just work with some other thing to integrate? So basically, what is desired, and then figure out how to best get there given where we are right now. Is that like so? An API interface can request info on a package and get that info, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think the thing that I mentioned was basically enable end users, developers to ask, I'm thinking about you. I'm using or thinking about using this, using or thinking about using this package. Tell me about it. Tell me everything about it so I can make good decisions, right? Is that,
Yeah.
I think that's the great point you guys are putting, which is, I think right now metrics.openssf.org runs scorecards itself. Rather, it could just leverage this API interface and just show the data, and then it could be completely customized to any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I think this API interface will come anyways with the scorecards work, right, Azim? So I think then it should be pretty easy to migrate even metrics.openssf.org
Yeah,
to use that.
not be GitHub, GitLab, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And
obviously,
one thing we've talked about in the past, I don't know if it would make it way too complex, but was kind of the idea of almost making it like almost like a wiki where people can edit it, or if something, let's say on the metrics dashboard, is incorrect, where someone could potentially edit that or fix that. I don't know from a design phase if something like that would be feasible. I know that's kind of that could be a double-edged sword, letting anybody kind of edit or update the data points, but it could make things easier from a maintenance standpoint.
I think there has to be an over. I mean, I think some of this goes, Luigi, to security insights. If you go to the board, if you see your record in this future system and it says that you don't run static analysis and you're like, but I do, and it's this, you should be able to express that in a way that your score goes up, at least to the point of it being an assertion from you as opposed to, data.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we talk about that a lot, but
Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
I know at some point in the past I felt strongly about the wiki idea, and I think there's probably something there, without it turning into a well, what it would what it could turn into.
Yes, the main difference between a wiki and the security insights is that if you find a wrong value on the dashboard, instead of suggest on the dashboard edit, you go on the GitHub project, and open a PR to edit the security insights. Probably it is easier for the maintainer, of course, because they have access to their repo, but also for any user, it's not so difficult. And at the same time, this helps us to not have a wiki approach to the dashboard that can be potentially a risk, maybe, or we need to define very well some rules to handle a similar approach, and maybe it's not so easy.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would really like here is just a full relational graph of, this package on NPM, is this thing on GitHub, is mirrored over here, like, and I'm thinking like, the relationship between like the Madler like zlib.net and the Ruby gem called, I think it's called zlib. Like, is there a tight relationship there, or is that just a name collision? And I think you do lots of other interesting things on top of that, but it's primarily just a, data connection problem. It can be phase 2, but it speaks to, I think, the advantages to having a common aggregation platform.
But Michael, you are asking you are asking to the maintainer to say, hey, where you are distributing your packages, so in npm, blah blah blah, or you are just asking if there are two packages with the same name on two.
I think having all the data someplace that one could explore would allow people to ask interesting questions in the future. So yes, it would be, given a GitHub package, what is the corresponding NPM package? Because right now there's a weak reference from NPM back to GitHub, but you'd have to like read the docs on GitHub to find out how to install it.
In the security inside, there is a section for this where the maintainer can add it and a scanner can read it. Of course, it's not easy to verify this fact, in my opinion. Probably there are some tricks, but sorry.
Yeah. Reproducibility would be another good kind of buildability, I guess, would be a separate thing where, like, I don't know if Scorecard would ever consider, and this goes into what's the project, Persia? The one
Persia.
Yeah,
and to be fair, they're not requiring reproducibility. They're just, if it's reproducible, they'll tell you.
Right, but so having that data point available, and maybe that data point does belong exposed through Scorecard in the future.
I mean, that would
Anyway.
not be a crazy thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but by the way, I've been trying to take some notes. I don't know if I've accurately captured, but I'm trying. I just added the "is this reproducible?" I'll put it in
Yeah.
bold temporarily.
So I think what might be useful at this point is to come up with the, like, how would we make a decision on what to do next? Obviously, we need Schubert in the room to get his opinion. So we'll sync back with him. I haven't heard any strong objections to any particular avenue. So it seems like as long as it's supported and it kind of does what we kind of collectively think it should do, then whether it's LFX security or scorecard, or even potentially deps.dev, is fine. I haven't. Sorry, Azim, your hands up.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering, should we discuss the issue of like resources here, or is that something that we need Shubra for?
In order, so I have had some conversation with Shubra. I made it clear that if Shubra is going to resource this, it would be an OpenSSF investment. So this would come out of the OpenSSF general fund, not Alpha Omega, because that was in the context that it came up. But yes, it would have to be funded and committed to long term before we decide that that's the route to go. I don't see that being a problem. That does, and now I'm speaking for Shubra, but it seems to align with his long-term vision of, and actually not even long-term, but medium-term vision of LFX security, to expand it out far beyond the LF projects, making at least a good subset of the data public, in which case, sure.
Makes sense.
So maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll how should we do this? I'd rather not wait 2 weeks to have another conversation on this. So let's get just an email thread going with Shubra and try to come up with a proposal. We'll send that out. We'll post it to Slack and you send it out to the folks on the call. And that way, if you have strong opinions, voice them.
Yeah. And by the way, I see no problem with multiple different sites doing different things, as long as it's clear we do X, not Y. So and I think that's perfect. At least what I had in mind was I'm thinking about using open source software. I want a single stop shop to give me some high level information. It's okay, and I added this, that it links to other sites. So for example, I would imagine that this top level thing might say, here's its scorecard value, here's a couple data points, click here, and you suddenly show up on the scorecard site with all the rest of it. Okay. Yep. But basically making it so that, if there's multiple sites, but I can go to one site and I click here, oh, it's a GitHub site. And if I want a lot of GitHub specific stats, click there, I show up in GitHub on its stats page. I don't think I don't think that this has to be one of those things where one site wins and everybody else disappears and we need to get rid of everybody. I don't think that's the idea. I think that there's a federation that's totally possible here.
Could I just throw a throw a wrench in all this thinking? You as a developer, if you're an NPM developer, where do you go to look for packages? You go to npm.js. If you're a NuGet, you go to NuGet. If you're, I mean, Ruby, you got my point. Asking a developer to remember and bookmark this other thing to go look at, maybe just not, it'll be an uphill battle. What if we still do the aggregation, or we make the aggregation available, and then we work with the package, npmjs.com or whatever, to integrate that into their view of the package screen. So if I'm on the left pad page, I see scorecard data. And if it makes sense, I see this is a critical project, and here are some secure, like, and have that as a plugin. And that way we get the entire ecosystem done in one shot. Everybody that uses the ecosystem that looks at the website sees it. And that way the package managers are invested in it as well.
Here's some. Maybe we can make that work, but here's the problem. I don't think it's going to work the way you're describing it. If I'm managing, say, Ruby gems,
Mhm.
I'm going to present what I've got, and I'm not interested in maintaining all these other metrics and modifying them over time and maintaining over them over time. I don't want to do that. And I suspect most of the other package managers don't want to do that either.
So
They're already busy managing the repos. They
yeah,
don't
no,
really
I think
need
either I'm
another
misunderstanding
problem.
you or you're misunderstanding me.
Yeah.
What I mean is literally, I'm sorry. Or is that a new hand up?
I missed you. Sorry.
Do you still have a question, or is your hand just stuck up?
Is it me?
Oh yeah, no, sorry. It's Teams doesn't know when to put its hand down.
Yeah.
So,
I just have a hand.
so like right here, what I think would be kind of cool is, somewhere on this page on the right, let's say here, there's a section that says scorecard, and it's like maintained, thumbs up, static analysis, thumbs down, whatever. And you click on it, and maybe you go to scorecard.dev. And maybe there's like a best practices section if the person, they have a best practice badge up top, and basically have a tighter integration with the package with this view of the data that we already have, and that we meet the developers where they're already at. Similarly for every other project.
Yeah, if we think we're only going to add 3 things and everything else is within that, I think we can do that. Is that what we want to commit to?
What do you mean only? What do you mean? Do you just mean that we can't like put like 87 different metrics on this page?
Well, more importantly, we can't add metrics later. Okay, if for example it shows scorecards and badges and salsa, say,
Yep.
then that's it. You're not going to be able to go back to NPM and say, hey, we need to keep adding things and things and things. They're not going to be interested in the endless changes. And what's worse, if you have 40 or 50 ecosystems, you're multiplying the work by 40 or 50 times because there's a whole lot of ecosystems out there.
Yeah, but 99% of developers talk to 4 of them, maybe 5, if you include .NET.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a super long tail.
About that. The tail is long, and the thing is that tail is longer than you may think. For example, a vast number of people use shells. If you're doing any serious shell
Vim
coding,
scripts, yes.
yes, and if you're doing shell, you should be using shell check. That's in Haskell, of course.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wait a minute. Is Haskell in your short list of 4? I bet not.
It is not.
But you're affected by it. So this is the long tail challenge.
Point though, I think the uber point is that if we have an aggregation layer, then the aggregation layer API may be more valuable than the UI. Perhaps, if I'm right. If I'm wrong, then the UI is more valuable. It doesn't really matter, but because I think we would still need both. But maybe just we should think about it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that meeting people where they are is a good idea. I'm wondering if let's I mean, we're thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Maybe what we can do is suggest basically inserting a few of these, scorecards, badges, whatever, and then a link to, I mean, we could try to do both, a link to a couple of these and a link to, hey, lots more security information, and then still have a site that has lots more, but that still meets them where they are. Because I think the issue really isn't whether or not it's on the page. The issue is whether or not it's easy to access from that page.
Right.
People don't know how to click
links. It could be absolutely. Okay.
I know I'm willing to click links and find, and hey, I'm worried about this new package. I'm willing to click a couple links and learn more. I may not be willing to start from scratch and Google research and read all the docs.
Anybody else would like to be on this call? If you do,
I
just
have a
if you,
question. Sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure how many developers actually visiting NPM or any other package manager for their updates or new versions. Normally for enterprise, they have their own internal package mirrors and everything, right? So I don't know if we can get some metrics around, how many users are coming at NPMs to view package information and things like that. I believe, from a security perspective, I things like dips.dev, like for security teams or somebody interested in specific security information, they can go, right? But I don't know how many developers are actually visiting, especially for a newer version, and how much they care about the security information there, right? Yeah, it's one of those things.
If I may, I mean, I don't have any great data on that, and I don't think anybody does. Just anecdotally, I think that the bigger organizations, say 10,000 plus employees, often have an internal repo. And that's not just industry. I know that's true for government as well, at least U.S. government. I don't know about foreign governments, non-U.S. governments, um, but most, I would say, a vast amount of software in the world is developed by smaller companies, and it's probably the vast majority, in fact. And no, they don't have any of that stuff. They're loading straight from NPM. They Googled, they found the package that came up first on the list that did their job, and they click and go. And they're not going to,
I think
if the information's easily accessible to them, I think they'll look at it. If it's not, they won't.
But do they still care about security? I mean, that's one of the things. Like most of the enterprise has internal package repository for security reasons and license and compliance, all other reasons, right? The people who don't bother to have one of those, right?
No, stop. There's not a not bother. There's a cost to that.
Yeah.
If you're a 5-person shop, it would be incredibly unwise to build your own repo. There's already one. It's called NPM. You use that. You would be foolish to try to recreate it yourself, because that will slow you down and create an unnecessary cost, unless you've just got unlimited VC money you need to burn. So I think for a vast number of folks, yes, they are using NPM and PyPI and so on directly. They're not using some indirect repo. And those indirect repos don't, whether or not they add value depends on how they're maintained too. They're not always a good thing. So I think people do use intermediate repos. People do use the direct repos as well. I do agree with Mike that having some links directly from those repos has some value. I do worry that multiplying what you have to maintain by 20x is a little risky. So trying to get some things that are stable and then maybe linking off to more things so that they don't have to rebuild it every time would be useful too.
Certainly, and I think we could figure out an efficient way of doing that integration. I think also having just one of the top 4 package managers do this would be a huge win. We don't, success can be getting the first one integrated. So let's do that. Yeah. I'll set up a call because I want to talk about other stuff too. Is there anything else that anybody just really needs to talk about on this topic? Cool. Awesome. I appreciate the conversation. Second topic, just Alpha Omega. This is just for any of you who have not seen. We launched yesterday morning. From what I've seen, the comments I've seen have almost all been positive. We're going to hold a information session on the 16th. So let me find the OpenSSF. So this is the release. So if you are interested in joining the information session, you are welcome. There's an announce, so we'll do that. We do need to at some point detach it from this working group. Right now, I think the only reason it's connected is because I'm doing both. That's not a great reason, so we'll figure that out. Most of the decisions are happening in a different meeting that we have.
But we have people to split into different projects, or we have just 2 different meetings but with the same people. I don't know if I
well, it's a different set of people for the most part.
Okay.
Anybody is welcome to, well, actually, so we need to set up a working session meeting. Right now we have kind of a session with it's basically myself, Michael Windsor from Google, and Brian, and David, I think you're there usually. Just kind of talking details, and most of that was about how to get this thing launched. As we go forward, we are looking to hire. So the first hire is going to be the most important. This will be you could look at it almost like a CEO of a startup. I think we're calling it a product manager. They will almost certainly oversee both Alpha and Omega from an execution day to day, make the thing successful. But this needs to be a driver of things, but also an evangelizer, someone that can talk externally and get everything. So if you have anybody that you say, wow, this person would be awesome for this, let me know. We're starting shortlist. In addition to that, we have a couple spots. So we'll have, I think right now we're looking for at least 1 project manager, at least 1 security analyst, and at least 2 engineers. The engineers is a little bit wishy-washy because if the more that Schubert does, the less we have to do. I think we'll still need 2 and all that. We're still coming up with the design of like what part of this is LFX security, what part of this is external, what part of this is, the analysis part versus the triage part versus reporting and everything. Like basically everything's up in the air. But we're starting to move.
I made a shot again. Mike, did my overly ridiculous summary of summaries make sense there?
That's perfect. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. They might have any questions. I mean, I should open it up. Does anybody have questions on what Alpha Omega is, or the announce, or direction, or anything?
Well, it is interesting. The Alpha Omega project now is a sort of startup.
Yeah,
definitely. Perfect. Okay. So, well, I have no question. I have a lot of questions, but probably I want to wait 2-3 months to see how the project / startup continue. But it is very interesting.
I saw a message board for Alpha Omega, but there is nothing there. So things will be posted there. Is that a plan?
In where? In Slack?
Yeah, the OpenSSF. There was an email today came, so I just joined as a message.
Yes. Yep. So we're probably going to send. It might be Monday by the time it actually, maybe even Tuesday next week by the time like there's announced. But it'll basically be a welcome and then a call to join the information session. Certainly, if you have questions that either you have or you think others might have about Alpha Omega, please let us know so we can come up with like really good answers before it. I would like I don't know if we're going to call it a webinar or an information session, but it will be interactive and we will take lots of questions. That's really the main purpose.
I was talking to a few of my guys, including some students. They were interested in some open source security project. So cool. Yeah, this is Krishna speaking. So I thought I will introduce them to this team. So if I get some information, I can share to them and ask them to join sometime. Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah, the webinar like registration link is already it's linked from the page that's linked from the press release.
Okay.
I think so. If you go here and then you go.
Yes, I can see the press. Yeah.
This guy.
We may as well throw that link in directly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes it
It's
easy.
near the bottom, right? Where is
Yeah.
that link?
So this is the page, and then the register.
Yeah, and there's also an announcements mailing list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, thanks. Mhm.
Hello everyone, this is Saurabh.
Hi.
Saurabh Singh. Hi, I'm new Saurabh Singh from IBM, and
Welcome.
thank you. In fact, this is my first meeting here. I was listening to everyone what's going on, and I'm working in the security side. Started working in IBM security and audit side, compliance related stuff. So I'm more interested to work on the scoreboard. And Matt introduced me here. So going forward, I'm looking forward to work on this side. Seeing now, just trying many things overflow for me right now. Yeah, I'm trying to understand. Today is the first day. I just clone my repo locally to understand scoreboard. Maybe ask many questions going forward.
Perfect. Yeah, Azim. You probably heard, but Azim leads the scorecard project, so he's absolutely the right person to talk to if you have any questions. But the whole team is awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what else?
And this today's
sorry,
meeting is today's meeting is about what is all about this? Just to summarize to understand.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
no, it's all good. So the OpenSSF has 6 working groups.
That's correct.
Each working group meets. I think most of them meet every other week.
All of them
This
meet
is
every
one of the
other
working
week.
groups.
Yep.
Called Identifying Security Threats. Don't let the name fool you. We do other things too. Alpha Omega was a project that was kind of born out of this working group, but we also do security insights, security reviews, the metrics.opens.org, which is why we had a long conversation earlier today, and some other things. So, I'd certainly encourage you to look at other working groups as well, just to see kind of what, get a good handle on what everybody's doing.
Hey.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Awesome. If there aren't any other questions, we can move to security insights. Luigi.
Yeah. In this, something related to obsolete packages.
For security insights.
Yeah.
I don't know, Luigi.
Can you repeat the question?
No, I mean something related to obsolete packages when we are talking about how to get those packages, how we are going to look into and those packages which are obsolete and we are going to go to next.
The security insights is a sort of it is a YAML file that should contain some useful information. For example, the link to the security MD contact, the maintenance contact, and other helpful information. For example, link to the CI or information about the CI or information about pen test or the source where the packages are distributed. So if the user know that a particular GitHub repo is linked to an NPM package, can decide to download from GitHub or from NPM. And we are trying to standardize this file, especially because we have received an interesting tweet from the one person from Apache, because they have a security policy, but they don't use the security.md. They use another pattern, another name. And for this reason, the scorecard failed to identify their security policy. So this YAML file is a sort of a human readable file that contains all the information that can be used both from human, of course, and also from scanner that need to double check a particular information, or if the scanner don't find a particular file in the a regular path, try to check the security insights to see if the maintainer moved it in a custom position. It's quite common, especially because for some policy there is no standard. For example, there is the doc folder, the docs folder, or sometimes the wiki is in a totally different page. So there are some missing standards for the open source, but a lot of open source projects have this information in custom source, and the security insight can help to collect all this information in single place that the scanner can use to obtain information. Of course, the scanner can decide to trust or not to this information, because fraudulent maintainers, fraudulent user can just write everything, but it is a well-known risk.
Okay.
And basically, sorry.
Oh, just because and the as far as like deprecated or obsolete specifically, Scorecard does its best to identify that. So this is left pad on deps.dev. This data is coming from the Scorecard project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm trying to understand slowly.
This is an early proposal. I mean, that nobody's using this file as far as I know.
Okay.
It is just a proposal for we are working on it. I haven't still pushed the last commit. They are on my local repo, but I have had a section for the documentation. At the moment, it is a generic section. I mean, there is no clear definition of documentation, so it can be just the folder docs in the repo, or it can be an external website that the maintainer have created has documentation. It is quite common. For example, or it is a YAML with the information about the API. There are, especially for the API, the documentation is auto-generated now. And I have added wait. I have the list. Give me a second. Yes.
MKDocs. Python uses MKDocs.
Yes.
That also we can be possibility we can use it.
Yes, definitely. I mean, at the moment it is. I am still working on it, so I'm not really sure how.
Right.
Yeah. And I think one challenge here is, I mean, this is an early proposal. One challenge is that nobody's committed to using it. As you know, Scorecards is very worried about using any of this because they want to be able to say, this is what we saw. And I think they're quite nervous about using this. The badging project, I lead that part. Willing, but there's not much in there that is direct use to the badging project right now. So we need to figure out how to fix that if we're going to make this useful.
I mean, having Apache commit to using it across everything would, I think, be useful for Scorecard, at least as one kind of largish data point.
But the problem is Apache can use it, but if Scorecards doesn't use it, it doesn't do anything.
Right, but if I mean,
but Scorecards so far
have to get together and shake hands and say we'll use it, and then we'll do this, and
then
they
that's my point.
It's good. Yeah,
right. That's my point. We got to have people who say this is my problem, and I'm willing to use it if you do this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah, I'm not trying to rain on the parade. I'm trying to make sure that the parade actually goes somewhere. If that makes any sense.
But based on CIA page, especially I have tried to read some CIA page.
You mean it's now the OpenSSF badge we renamed last year.
Okay, but I mean, I have seen that the contributing.md is very important, but also the link to the license, and also the list of the dependencies file that are contained in the repo can help. So if someone wants to choose which scanner use to scan a particular project, especially for third-party packages, you need to know what are the file that contain the dependencies. But if you don't know the languages, you don't know the file. So in this way, you can have easily the path. And I have added also the link to the changelog, because also this is contained in the CIA page, and it was interesting.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And so
sorry, I see a couple hands up. want to?
Yes.
I know we have just a couple minutes left. Matt.
Yeah, I mean, first I want to say I'm extremely pleased about this update. As you know, Michael, these are things we talked about months ago. And I agree. I think having an Apache project myself, I always hoped, talked about this level of this tiered mechanism. I mean, it goes back to the early conversation we had in this call about we have to decide, or Scorecard has to decide, how we incorporate other ecosystems, other policies, other practices, other things like that. Apache is a great starting point because they do have uniform requirements and policies for graduation that all projects must adhere to. So they can point to the Apache way. We get Apache to codify those policies in some way. Then projects apply, overlap their specific policies, how they implement those in their specific project. I think it can be automated. The question is, I still don't understand where the boundary to Scorecard is, because early in the call I heard Scorecard can do everything, and we heard, but then maybe there should be a boundary, which I agree. There has to be some negotiated boundary of, like, if Scorecard, if the data that other people want to represent it in their way or implement it in a certain way, if there's an API or a way to say, how do we normalize this to Scorecard, all the better. I think I absolutely agree that Apache Foundation is a great starting point.
Yeah, we just need to make sure there's a handshake, because even if Apache uses it but nobody reads it, if Apache generates it and no one reads it, it still doesn't matter. So we need to make sure this handoff works out.
Dashboard and Scorecard, either it's directly done by Scorecard and manifested through them, or through a metrics dashboard as a plugin. Either way,
right,
as long as
right,
there's a way
exactly.
Normal. Yeah.
There we go. We need to have writers and readers. How's that? Is that a good summary of what you're saying, Matt?
Yeah, it's a clearinghouse. It needs some normalization for everybody to understand, no matter what the source is, right?
Yep.
Yes, convince people is, in my opinion, the most difficult part. The security insights can help because you can maintain the technical depth. I mean, you can maintain your standard just adding a new layer that can be used from a new scanner. In this way, we can try to convince if people to add it to the repo, and then we need to convince not only the scorecard but also other scanner, but starting with the scorecard, to use it. I know that they don't want to trust to the user. I understand them. At the same time, they already trust to the user when they say that there is the security.md, because they don't check the document, they check just the path.
Well, they can't tell that it's a reasonable security policy, just that.
Exactly. And
right,
they can use the security insight.
Sorry, Vinod, hands up?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to clarify my previous point, David and Michael. I didn't meant to, say something which is completely. So what I meant was this data is, in my opinion, is mainly useful for two types of people, right? One is developers and security people, and I think developers who are working closely with an open source project or library, they mostly go through the source code repository like GitHub URL and everything, right? Like they may have better familiarity with the source of the location, the source code itself. And security people, I'm a part of a security people, so I know that we prefer one place, like something like dips.dev, right? Like I really like the fact dips already put so many meta information, like Michael mentioned, where is the source code, where is the version, even there is a dependency graph. Find how these interconnection between dependency and also the scorecard. I think they have already done a great job with the 4-5 package centrals, right? So I think they're still expanding. I think I'm not saying we need to have dips.dev, but if Google is interested to donate to OpenSSF, I think it's a great idea. But I think something like that will be more useful for security people. But I think for developers, I think the data in the GitHub or something like that would be much more helpful for them, right? Like it's just an opinion, right? And I just want to say that even as a company, we are considering to use Scorecard for both improving our ingestion mechanism as well as a contribution or maintaining open source software, so we can scan across our repos and make sure that we have a good score and we are, we are enforcing whatever our internal policies are, right? So yeah, so I think there is also an opportunity to encourage other OpenSSF members to try scorecards and at least let them know what are the benefits, how they can use it. Right? There can be different use case, even scorecard and other metrics we are generating, not just for open source softwares or open source community, even for enterprises, like how they can improve their existing open source management, right? Yeah.
Sounds good. We are over time. Thank you everybody for your opinions and thoughts and great discussion. We will pick up on this next time, and we'll go in the reverse order. So we'll pick up the security reviews and don't be a jerk paper. Thank you everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.